Everyone, and thanks for everyone being here. First of all, I'd like to thank all the veterans for their service to our country. We appreciate that immensely. We couldn't be here doing the things we do if it weren't for them. Also, I want to say thank you to all the help and the people that came last evening. It was quite a resounding success. The ice cream social was a lot of fun, and I just wanted to say thanks to Jeanette and all the crew, Nancy and Becky and Betty and everybody that was there. If I start to keep going on, I'm going to forget somebody because there was a whole lot of folks there helping. And it was just great to see everybody there working together. So thank you each and every one for all of your busy with there. Just everybody that was there, I appreciate it. And that was very successful. So thanks to all of you. And I want to thank Betty and the Outreach Committee for all the planning for what we have done today, and Chloe and George, and just everybody, all of our whole group that was there. And so just really appreciate it. Marvin, everybody that was there and helped serve. If I left somebody out, I didn't mean to, so thank you. I told Delbert Bowling I was going to tell a story about him. And you notice he's not here. I should have probably not told him. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and tell the story. I was first thinking about telling about when Delbert was breaking in the new parking lot back and parked in the pastor's space. But I thought, no, I'll let the pastor talk about that later. But I do want to elucidate some of you on Delbert's history. Work history. We all worked at Goodyear. But before that, he had another job. And this story kind of gets to that. Not too long ago, Delbert was going to get some lemonade in a new place that served it, and they had a special challenge. And the challenge was they squeezed it by machine. And if anybody else could squeeze any additional juice out of that lemon, they would get $1,000. Well, Delbert's a little scotchy with his money, and so he was up for the challenge. So they told him, they said, no one's ever gotten any juice out of here after the machine squeezed it. Well, that didn't deter Delbert. So he got a hold of the lemon after it had been squeezed, and people were watching, and to everyone's surprise, Delbert got about 6 or 8 inches drops of lemonade juice out of that lemon. And everybody was amazed. And the guy started writing him the check, and he says, I just have to ask you. He says, did you do a lot of bodybuilding or work with your hands? Or, he says, what did you do? Nobody's ever been able to do this. And so Delbert, with a wry smile, informed him that at one time he worked for the IRS. The topic this morning was how do we reconcile service to our government and our God? Sometimes that does sound impossible. And I thought also that being out today is the culmination of the 4th of July weekend, that I kind of wanted to go back and talk a little bit about some of the history and why we celebrate this weekend. There was a recent article in the Topeka Capital Journal that said recent polls and studies have shown an alarming number of Americans have little knowledge of the history of this nation. And whether that coincides with the alarming number of folks, younger people especially, that are not coming to or found a church, I don't know, but it could be. But it seems appropriate that this July 4th weekend, that it is a really good time to remember why we're celebrating. July 4th is recognized as Independence Day because it was on that day in 1776 when the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. It was largely written by Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, and it declared the colonies to be independent, but it also said they were independent states, declared their independence from Great Britain. Some historians believe that it was signed that day, and others believe it was not finished The signatures were not finished until August 2nd, 1776. But July 4th has ever since been recognized as Independence Day. Independence wasn't won until years later with a final victory. The American Revolution secured at Yorktown, Virginia in October of 1781. However, a peace treaty with Great Britain wasn't signed until 1783. And historians recognize 1775 to 1783 as the 4 years. The Declaration was quite a document. It listed the reasons justifying the split from Great Britain and listed the reasons justifying the separation. It did so in language that suggested the tone of the Constitution would be written years later. And I'm just going to read a small portion of that document. But I think it gets to the core. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with uncertain and inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's something. Now, the men who adopted and signed that document did so at great risk to themselves. We know how it came out. We know how the story ended. We know that the young colonies, upstart nation, defeated Great Britain, the greatest military power in the world at the time. We know that. They didn't know that. Had the Continental Army not defeated the British, their fates would have been much different. Those of us who celebrate Independence Day owe much to the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence and those who fought to ensure its promise was fulfilled. Now, along with that, I thought, thinking about the topics, and thinking about this time that we celebrate, I thought, what is patriotism? How is it formed? And the definition, when I looked it up, said, patriotism, devoted love, support, and defense of one's country, national loyalty. And then it started to kind of make sense. What makes men or women feel like this? And the first word, love. That helps start to understand. We all remember the famous quotes of those patriots. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Nathan Hale, I regret that I have but one life to give for my country. Both full of emotion. In examining the definition and the quotes, if we look close, we can begin to see that they are suggesting that a duality exists. The duality of those things material and those things spiritual. I also want to paraphrase General Douglas MacArthur on a speech he gave to the final graduating class that he presided over at West Point. General MacArthur said, duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate all that you can be, all that you will be, and all that you must be. They are your rallying points. They will give you a quality of the imagination, a temperament of the will. They will help you draw from the deep well springs of life. And in that way, they will help make you an officer. To be a soldier does not mean you are warmonger, for a soldier above all others. Praise. Now these words show, they're most eloquent, but they show this duality of service to God and country. An imagination. Quality of the imagination. Imagination is something unseen. I've imagined great adventures. Mars, the moon, and under the sea in my box. We've all had those great adventures of the imagination. A temperament of the will. And also something unseen. And yet both of those things together can be translated into acts that become part of the truth. The question, as Marvin read this morning, and I'm going to reread that here in just a moment, is what should we render to Caesar and what should we render to God? Are they mutually exclusive? Well, Jesus spoke about this in that particular wording. Mark 12, 13 through 17. Later they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we?" But Jesus knew their hypocrisy. "Why are you trying to trap me again? Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." They brought the coin. And he asked them, "Whose image is this? And whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then Jesus said to them, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." They were amazed. Now it would seem that sometimes there is an inherent contradiction in service to government in our country or our government. The Ten Commandments are clear: "Thou shalt not kill," and yet our country has since its inception sent men off to kill and be killed. But I believe that if we examine what Jesus said, that the answer then does become clear. He said, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." All things of material value are those things that belong to Caesar. Money, car, boats, home, land, clothes, TV, iPod, video games, all of those things are things that belong to Caesar, a.k.a. God. Even though we like them and we like to have them, they are worldly, and all things spiritual then belong to God. So this duality exists. Matters of the heart, soul, love, forgiveness, faith, and belief, all those things unseen and yet real belong to God. Is love real? All our emotions, faith, belief, real? Certainly they are. Can the government tax the Holy Spirit? I don't think so. Can it tax matters of love, the soul, forgiveness, faith, and belief, and a whole host of other things that God created in us to be felt and yet unseen? These truly are those things that belong to God. Jesus told us also not to gather up treasures of the earth, but that we should rather gather up things that would be the Spirit, so that we would have treasures laid up in heaven. Jesus has been clear about what belongs to God and what belongs to Caesar, government. Now, I believe that we can serve government and God at the same time, just like all of our veterans and any who served in public service have done. And we can serve the material interests of government with fidelity and integrity and the spiritual interests of God at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive. The patriots that we celebrate on the 4th of July, Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Franklin, the rest, and the military heroes our country honors for their heroism and courage have all done it. Ultimately, it is up to each individual who works within the government structure to determine whether what they are being asked to do is something they can live with. Several times I didn't agree with the administration that I worked for their official position. I talked it over with the governor, told him why I didn't agree. I didn't compromise my integrity. So, those things can be done. And sometimes we wonder how we as individuals can go about accomplishing this kind of action in our daily life. Particularly with I would say the lack of understanding of some folks about the history of our country, and the lack of interest by some of our younger people in attending church. And I happened to read an article that was in the Augusta Chronicle, and it recently, and I'm just going to read this because I can't say it in any better way. The Augusta Chronicle recently reported that it's not enough for us to feel deep patriotism in our hearts or to wear it on our sleeves in order to help America remain great or perhaps even to save it. We've got to match our good intentions with doing good, just as the founding fathers all risked death in declaring independence from England, and once pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Is it too much to ask for us to do the same under much less dire circumstances for the health of the Republic? And they set forth 10 pledges. And I'm going to repeat those. Number 1, to be an informed, active citizen. 2, to be civil and kind. 3, to have a healthy lifestyle. 4, to decide what you believe and to act on it. 5, to take responsibility for life and your own actions. 6, to be my brother's keeper and do good works. 7, to be the best family member, neighbor, and friend that I could possibly be. 8, to hold my elected representatives accountable. 9, to be as self-reliant as I can. And 10, to be a model of unity to others. Now, just as the Augusta Chronicle challenged us to match our good intentions with doing good, we must strive to bring that to our church work as well. As the founding fathers once pledged to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, we must as a church strive to make these covenants with each other, not just for the preservation of the country, but our church as well. God created this duality of material and spiritual roads. And Jesus showed us that we could exist with this duality as long as we recognize each for what it is. For truly, only can we reach the kingdom of heaven by rending to Caesar government that which is Caesar's, and to God that which is God's. Psalm 33:12 says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." God bless our veterans. God bless our church. And God bless the United States.